So I want to just kick it off by asking you to outline this text and the related question of what you hope to accomplish, what your intention was with this text, and why now.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق وخاتم لما سبق ناصب الحق بالحق وهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم اللهم بارك لنا في رجب وشعبان وبلغنا رمضان. We ask Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us in this month of Rajab and to bless us in Sha'ban and have us live to reach the blessed month of Ramadan. First of all, let me thank Wasit for the opportunity to come on and join you again and talk about this latest work, Blackness and Islam. And this book is basically building off the two books that I co-authored with Sidi Ahmed Mubarak, the first of those being Centering Black Narrative, Black Muslim Nobles Among the Early Pious Muslims, which is about some of the Black Sahaba and as well as a few other personalities in the early generations of Muslims who were Black. And then volume number 2, Centering Black Narrative, Ahlul Bayt, Blackness in Africa, which was talking about the Black descendants of Ali ibn Abi Talib, Karramallahu ta'ala wajhu radiyallahu an, those who were Black simply because of their born phenotype without any African lineage directly, and then those who had African maternal lineage of that offspring generations going down. I'll first start off with the motives behind the book, and then I guess we can go to the, the actual subject matter. So as I mentioned, I wrote or co-authored 2 books that came before. And what I realized after writing those is that in no way had we exhausted the subject matter of Blackness within Islam in both categories, amongst the Sahaba as well as the Black Hashemites, we could say. And so just like Jalaluddin Suyuti, rahimahullah ta'ala, the great polymath who was Persian in lineage, but lived and passed away in Egypt. Also, he had an Abyssinian wife, by the way. Just as he wrote 3 books specifically highlighting the issue of Blackness and its meritoriousness within the Islamic tradition, that I saw that it was simply fine to write something else and expand more on what was written before. And for 3 reasons. First is to tell the truth for the sake of truth in regards to some of our history, to highlight certain things in which I believe the history of Blackness in early Islam has been whitewashed, and if not intentionally, there's been some benign neglect in regards to the telling of the early history of Islam as it relates to the meritorious contribution of Blacks, which include Blacks amongst the Arabs, right? So that's the first, telling the truth for the sake of truth. The second is to deal with the issue of inferiority complexes of Muslims who are Black, or those who have involved themselves in self-loathing, thinking that Islam civilizationally and the beauty of Islam comes from Arabs and then Persians or Turkish civilization, yet as if Africa didn't play a pivotal role in the forming of Islamic civilization. And then sometimes this can also play itself out not only in self-loathing, but in uncritical copying of others, and thus erasing Blackness as far as cultural expressions. The third reason is to address the issue of, we can say at best, a level of implicit anti-Blackness that exists within Muslim communities in the West. Those who maybe innocently don't know anything about the history of Blackness in early Islam because they've never been taught it, and maybe even their resident imams may actually be completely unaware of some of these aspects of history. And then also, the hope that it's a type of medicine to deal with the issues of people maybe looking down upon Blackness or misunderstanding the issue, even when it comes to the issue of fiqh, of how some people have made it as if it's haram for their non-Black family members to marry someone Black in the deen. So there's a number. These three reasons primarily is why I wrote this book, and these are ongoing issues and challenges that need to be addressed.
MashaAllah. So I think tied in there's a number of audiences that you're having in mind, and so maybe you could speak a little bit to who you hope, who you intended would read this and would get this message.
Well, the first group of people who I hope to that would read this book are Muslims who are Black. Number one, is a type of tib or a type of remedy, and especially when there's a lot of discussion now in the socio-political context about centering Blackness or the value of Black life, and how many Muslims who are Black feel like they need to have a space in which they can affirm their Blackness in a positive way and transmit this to their children. That this is, or our children, I should say, this is one audience. The second audience are Muslims who are not Black, for the reason I stated before. Then I would say even the third are African Americans who are not Muslim. And part of what the book also does is it goes and challenges some of the critiques by Orientalists as well as Afrocentrists that try to paint a picture that in early Islamic civilization, that somehow Islam or the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam were anti-Black, and of course we know this isn't true, but to address that, as well as certain things that they have highlighted from early Islamic civilization, including certain things from scholars, certain things that have been written in our books that in fact need clarification. And I've said this before, I think here, but I know I've said in other venues, that even in writing about this, that we love the scholars of our tradition, and we don't like to cast blame on them or judgment because they live in their certain socio-political environments. But we can still love and respect our great scholars, and at the same time have to clarify certain things for a contemporary audience, or even admit that they weren't ma'sumin, right? They weren't protected from error, and there's even people who we can look at as great awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that maybe there were some errors that crept into their books, if not by them writing it, of other people who transmitted things incorrectly in their names. Nonetheless, that's another audience of clarification of African Americans in general who have perhaps read some or heard some Hotep arguments, Afrocentric arguments, or Black Orientalists
Mhm.
to respond to some of those?